The morning felt perfect. I stood in the kitchen with my phone pressed between my shoulder and ear while looking over our wedding checklist. Yes, I said. The flowers should arrive before noon tomorrow. The florist laughed. Don't worry, Ethan. Everything will be beautiful. I know. Thank you. I ended the call and smiled at the list on the table. Wedding venue. Flowers. Cake. Music. Everything was almost ready. After 20 years with Charlotte Bennett, we were finally getting married. Sometimes it still felt unreal. We had been 5 years old when we first met. Our parents became friends. Then we became best friends. Best friends slowly became first love. First love became a promise. That promise became an engagement. Now it was only days away from becoming a marriage. My phone buzzed. Charlotte. I answered immediately. Morning, beautiful. Her voice sounded quiet. Hi, Ethan. You don't sound excited. I'm just thinking. About the wedding? Can we meet? I frowned. Of course. Is everything okay? I'd rather tell you in person. Where? The park. Our park. Yes. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Thank you. The call ended. Something inside me felt strange. Charlotte usually talked about flowers, music, or honeymoon plans. She never sounded like this. I told myself she was just nervous. Everyone became nervous before a wedding. I drove to the park where I had proposed 3 years earlier. The old oak tree still stood beside the lake. The bench was empty. A few minutes later, Charlotte walked toward me. She wore a simple blue dress. She looked beautiful, but she didn't smile. I stepped forward. Hey. Hi. I reached for a hug. She hesitated before letting me hold her. Even that felt different. I pulled back. What's wrong? She looked at the lake instead of me. I've been trying to find the right words. You don't have to be nervous with me. I know. Then tell me. She took a slow breath. Ethan. Yeah. I don't think we should get married. The words didn't make sense. I stared at her. What? She slowly removed the engagement ring from her finger. My heart stopped. She placed the ring in my hand. I can't marry you. I looked down at the ring. It suddenly felt heavier than anything I had ever held. Charlotte. I'm sorry. This isn't funny. I know. Then tell me what's happening. She closed her eyes. I met someone. Silence. Only the wind moved through the trees. I laughed once. Not because it was funny. Because my mind refused to believe her. You met someone? His name is Lucas Grant. How long? A few weeks. A few weeks. She nodded. I shook my head. We've been together for 20 years. I know. You've known him for a few weeks. I know. And you're ending everything? Tears filled her eyes. I didn't plan this. What did you plan? I thought I would never question us. But then I met him. I stepped back. So that's it? No. It sounds like that's it. It's more complicated. Then explain it. She wiped her tears. Lucas made me realize I've never experienced anything except us. I couldn't speak. She continued. We've been together since we were children. Because we loved each other. Yes. But what if I've never discovered who I really am? I stared at her. You think another man will help you find yourself? I think I need to know. You need to know if he's better than me? No. Then what? If another kind of love exists. I laughed again. This time it hurt. So our 20 years became an experiment. They didn't. That's exactly what happened. She reached for my hand. I gently stepped away. Ethan, don't. I never wanted to hurt you. But you are. I know. You planned our wedding yesterday. I know. You tasted cakes with me 3 days ago. I know. You picked our first dance song. I know. I looked into her eyes. When did you stop loving me? I don't think I did. Then why are we standing here? Because love isn't the problem. I frowned. What does that even mean? It means I don't feel certain anymore. I whispered. After 20 years? She nodded. I can't marry you while wondering what could have been. I looked around the park. Every memory suddenly felt broken. Our first kiss. Our graduation photos. My proposal. Every happy moment now carried a different meaning. I looked back at her. So what happens now? I need time. Time for what? To see where life leads. And if Lucas leaves? She didn't answer. I asked again. If he walks away tomorrow, do you come back to me? She stayed silent. That silence hurt more than every word she had spoken. I opened my hand and looked at the engagement ring. So I'm your backup plan? No. Then tell me I'm wrong. She couldn't. I slipped the ring into my pocket. I have one question. She looked at me with tears streaming down her face. I asked quietly, is one stranger really worth throwing away 20 years? She covered her mouth. Then she whispered the words that destroyed everything. I have to know. Neither of us moved. The wind carried fallen leaves across the path between us. Finally, she turned around. She walked away without looking back. I watched the woman I had loved since childhood disappear down the same path where I had once imagined us walking together as husband and wife. For the first time in 20 years, I realized I no longer had a future. I only had a choice. And I had no idea how to survive tomorrow. The next morning, I woke up expecting to see Charlotte's good morning message. My phone stayed silent. I stared at the empty screen before throwing it onto the bed. 20 years had trained my mind to expect her. One conversation had erased that habit. Not the memory, just the routine. A knock came at my apartment door. I opened it. Daniel Carter stood outside holding 2 cups of coffee. You look terrible, he said. I've looked better. I figured. He walked inside without waiting for permission. He handed me a coffee. You eating? Not really. Sleeping? Not really. He sighed. Ethan, you can't keep doing this. I'm trying. No, you're surviving. That's different. I sat on the couch. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Daniel leaned forward. You do nothing. I frowned. What? You don't chase her. I wasn't planning to. Good. If she wanted to stay, she would have stayed. Exactly. He looked directly at me. She walked away. I know. So let her. Before I could answer, my phone rang. Charlotte. Daniel looked at the screen. Don't answer. I should. Why? I don't know. I answered. Hello. Ethan. Her voice sounded cheerful. Too cheerful. How are you? I laughed softly. You ended our engagement 2 weeks ago. I know. So what do you think? I just wanted to check on you. I'm alive. I'm glad. Silence filled the call. Finally, she asked. Are you taking care of yourself? I'm trying. Good. I have a question. Okay. What exactly are we now? She hesitated. I don't want us to become strangers. We already are. No. You gave the ring back. I know. You chose someone else. I know. So don't call me like we're taking a short break. She became quiet. I thought. Maybe after some time. After some time what? You'd understand. I understand perfectly. Ethan. I hope Lucas makes you happy. I ended the call. Daniel slowly nodded. That was the right choice. I don't know why she called. Because she thinks you'll still be there. I looked down. You really think so? I know so. 3 days later my mother called. You should come to dinner Sunday. I don't feel like it. You need family. I need peace. You need both. I finally agreed. Sunday arrived faster than I wanted. The house felt different. Everyone smiled too carefully. Nobody knew what to say. Then Sophia Bennett walked toward me. She hugged me tightly. I'm so sorry. It wasn't your fault. She stepped back. I'm still angry. At who? My sister. I sighed. Please don't fight because of me. I'm fighting because of her. Sophia. No. She crossed her arms. I warned her. I looked at her. You knew? I told Charlotte she was making the biggest mistake of her life. What did she say? She said she needed freedom. I smiled bitterly. I guess she found it. Sophia shook her head. No. Then what? She found excitement. Before I could answer, Charlotte walked into the dining room. She froze when she saw me. Ethan. Charlotte. She smiled awkwardly. You look well. I've been busy. That's good. Lucas entered behind her. He was taller than me. Confident. Expensive suit. Perfect smile. He extended his hand. You must be Ethan. I am. I've heard a lot about you. I'm sure you have. He smiled politely. Charlotte looked uncomfortable. Dinner became painfully quiet. Nobody wanted to speak. Finally, Lucas broke the silence. So, Ethan, Charlotte says you're an architect. I am. That's impressive. I enjoy it. Charlotte looked relieved someone had changed the subject. But Sophia wasn't finished. She placed her fork down. Charlotte. What? Was it worth it? The room became silent. Charlotte looked away. Sophia. No. You promised. I promised nothing. Charlotte sighed. I'm not doing this. Sophia stood. You threw away 20 years. Charlotte whispered, please. For what? Lucas finally spoke. I think this conversation should stop. Sophia looked directly at him. This isn't about you. I stood before the argument became worse. I should go. Charlotte looked surprised. So soon? Yes. I wanted to talk. We already did. I walked outside. The cold air felt better than that dining room. A black SUV stopped beside me. The window rolled down. Ethan. I looked inside. Michael Reynolds. My business partner. What are you doing here? Looking for you. You found me. He smiled. Get in. I climbed inside. You haven't answered my emails. I know. You've missed meetings. I know. You ignored 3 clients. I know. He looked at me for several seconds. You're fired. I blinked. What? He laughed. I'm kidding. I almost smiled. That wasn't funny. It made you react. He started driving. I've watched you destroy yourself for 2 weeks. I'm trying. No. He sounded exactly like Daniel. You're hiding. I lost everything. No. I lost Charlotte. Yes. But you still have your career. I looked out the window. It doesn't matter. It will. He handed me a folder. I opened it. Inside were blueprints. What's this? The Riverside Redevelopment Project. I stared at the drawings. This is huge. It is. I can't lead something like this right now. That's exactly why you will. I'm not ready. You don't need ready. I need motivation. You need purpose. I stayed quiet. Michael continued. You built your entire future around one person. I know. Now build something that belongs only to you. His words stayed with me. 2 nights later, I attended another family dinner because my mother refused to accept no. I expected another uncomfortable evening. Instead, someone quietly sat beside me. Scarlett Hayes, Charlotte's cousin. I remembered seeing her at family holidays over the years. She smiled gently. Hi, Ethan. Hi. She didn't ask whether I was okay. She simply poured me a glass of water. Several minutes passed before she spoke again. How are you really? Not how are you. Monday morning arrived with something I had not felt in weeks. Purpose. I walked into Michael's office carrying the Riverside redevelopment plans. He looked up and smiled. I was wondering if you'd finally show up. I almost didn't. But you did. I needed something to keep my mind busy. He nodded. Good. There's someone I want you to meet. He led me into the conference room. Several designers were already sitting around the table. Then I saw her. Scarlett Hayes. She stood and smiled. Good morning, Ethan. Morning. Michael looked between us. You two know each other? We've met at family gatherings, Scarlett answered. Perfect. Her design company won the interior contract. I looked at her. So we're working together? She nodded. If that's okay with you. I don't have a problem with it. Michael clapped his hands. Excellent. Let's build something great. The meeting lasted nearly 2 hours. For the first time since Charlotte ended our engagement, I forgot about my personal life. Every discussion focused on ideas, not heartbreak. When everyone started leaving, Scarlett stopped beside me. You forgot something. What? She held out my notebook. You left it on the table. I smiled. Thanks. She hesitated. Have you eaten? I blinked. No. I thought so. How? You kept rubbing your stomach during the meeting. I laughed quietly. I didn't realize. There's a cafe downstairs. I'm fine. She raised one eyebrow. No, you're pretending. I looked away. She smiled. My treat. 20 minutes later, we sat beside a window with sandwiches and coffee. The waitress placed my cup in front of me. Scarlett frowned. That's wrong. The waitress looked confused. What? He drinks black coffee. I stared at Scarlett. You remember that? She smiled. You've ordered the same coffee at every family dinner for years. I laughed. I barely remember what I ordered yesterday. You've always been predictable. I guess that's true. She stirred her tea. I don't think predictable is a bad thing. Most people would have called it boring. She didn't. That surprised me. The following weeks became easier. Not because I stopped missing Charlotte. Because work demanded my attention. Every morning Scarlett asked the same question. Breakfast. Every afternoon, she reminded me to take breaks. Every evening she asked, how did today go? She never forced conversations about Charlotte. She simply treated me like someone worth caring about. One afternoon, I stared at a floor plan. I don't like this entrance. Scarlett looked over. Neither do I. I thought everyone else loved it. They do. So why agree with me? Because I honestly think you're right. I looked at her. Charlotte always said I overthought things. Scarlett smiled gently. I think you think carefully. Those words stayed with me all day. A week later, another woman joined our lunch. Scarlett waved. Ethan, this is Emma Collins. Emma smiled. So you're finally meeting him. I frowned. Finally. Scarlett looked embarrassed. Emma. What? Emma laughed. I've listened to stories about you for years. Scarlett nearly dropped her fork. Stop talking. I looked between them. Stories. Emma grinned. Oh yes. Scarlett sighed. Ignore her. Emma refused. You always said Ethan was the kindest man in the room. Scarlett covered her face. I can't believe you're doing this. I absolutely can. I laughed for the first time in weeks. Emma pointed at Scarlett. She notices everything about you. Scarlett interrupted. Emma. What? It's true. I smiled. Apparently. Scarlett looked at me. I'm sorry. You don't have to apologize. Emma stood. I'll leave before she throws something at me. After she walked away, Scarlett looked completely embarrassed. I promise I'm not usually this awkward. I think it's kind of funny. She laughed. Thanks. Across town, Charlotte's life was changing too. I knew because people talked. Lucas traveled constantly. He canceled dinners. He missed birthdays. He disappeared for days without calling. I tried not to care. One evening my phone rang. Charlotte. I stared at the screen before answering. Hello. Ethan. Hi. Are you busy? I just got home. Can I ask something? You already did. She sighed. I mean, can I ask another question? What is it? She stayed quiet for several seconds. Lucas keeps canceling plans. I closed my eyes. I see. He says work comes first. Okay. What do you think? I looked out my apartment window. Charlotte. Yeah. Why are you asking me? You should ask Lucas. He doesn't listen. I answered softly. Then that's your conversation to have. You always gave good advice. I still can. Relief entered her voice. So you'll help? I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. No. Silence. Finally she whispered. Why not? Because you chose him. Ethan. You wanted to discover another kind of love. I know. Then discover it. I thought we could still talk. We are talking. You know what I mean. I can't become your relationship counselor. She sounded hurt. I wasn't asking for that. What were you asking for? I guess. She hesitated. I guess I thought you'd always help me. I smiled sadly. I helped you for 20 years. I know. Now it's someone else's turn. I ended the call gently. Not angrily. Just honestly. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty afterward. 2 days later, another family dinner arrived. I almost skipped it. Scarlett convinced me to come. It'll only be 2 hours. You make it sound easy. It isn't. But hiding isn't easier. She was right. Halfway through dinner, I walked into the backyard for fresh air. Voices drifted through the open kitchen window. Sophia. Charlotte. I wasn't trying to listen. Their words simply reached me. Charlotte sounded frustrated. I don't understand him anymore. Sophia answered calmly. Because he finally stopped living for you. I never asked him to stop caring. You didn't have to. Silence followed. Then Sophia spoke again. Do you want to know something painful? What? Scarlett appreciates everything you threw away. The back 3 months changed more than 20 years ever had. Every morning I woke before sunrise. Every evening I returned home tired instead of heartbroken. The Riverside project filled my calendar. Scarlett filled the quiet moments without trying to. She never pushed. She simply stayed. That morning I stood in my office reviewing blueprints when my assistant knocked. Ethan, come in. You have a visitor. I don't remember scheduling anyone. She said you'll want to see her. The door opened before I could answer. Charlotte walked inside. She wore a gray coat and looked exhausted. My assistant quietly closed the door. For several seconds neither of us spoke. Finally I broke the silence. Hi. Hi. What brings you here? She looked around my office. You've changed. I asked what brings you here. She smiled sadly. You always get straight to the point now. I've learned. She lowered her eyes. I wanted to talk. You could have called. I didn't think you'd answer. You were probably right. She nodded. I deserve that. I pointed toward the chair. You came all this way. Sit. She sat across from me. Her hands shook slightly. You look tired. I am. Work? She laughed softly. I wish. I waited. She finally spoke. Lucas and I broke up. I stayed quiet. He left last month. I'm sorry. You mean that? I don't celebrate someone's pain. She looked at me for a long moment. That's who you've always been. I didn't answer. She took a deep breath. I thought he was different. What happened? He loved attention. I noticed. He loved people chasing him. I noticed that too. He hated responsibility. Silence filled the room. Then she whispered, You never did. I leaned back. Charlotte, let me finish. I nodded. She wiped her eyes. You carried everything. What do you mean? Our families. Our plans. Our future. She laughed bitterly. I complained that you were predictable. You did. But predictable meant dependable. I looked at the desk. I didn't understand that. You understand now? Yes. She looked directly into my eyes. I've spent months comparing him to you. I sighed. Don't. It's true. I'm not interested in winning comparisons. I'm not trying to compare. It sounds like you are. She nodded slowly. I was stupid. I stayed silent. She continued. I confused excitement with happiness. The room became quiet again. Finally, she asked the question I had expected since she walked inside. Do you think we could start over? I closed my eyes for a second. Months ago, I would have answered before she finished speaking. Now I couldn't. She leaned forward. I'm not asking you to forget everything. I can't. I know. I'm asking if we can slow down. She smiled through tears. Have coffee. Talk. See where life takes us. I looked at the woman I had loved almost my entire life. Part of me still wanted to say yes. Another part remembered the park, the ring, the words, I have to know. Before I could answer, someone knocked. Come in. The door opened. Scarlett walked inside carrying several design folders. She smiled automatically. Morning, Ethan. Then she noticed Charlotte. Oh, Charlotte stood. Hi, Scarlett. Hi. Scarlett looked at me. I can come back later. It's okay. I stood. We're almost finished. Scarlett placed the folders on my desk. I brought the revised lobby designs. Thanks. She walked beside me and opened the first folder. I moved the reception desk farther from the entrance. I studied the drawing. That works better. I thought you'd like it. Charlotte watched us quietly. Scarlett pointed toward another page. What about these windows? They'll bring in more natural light. Exactly what I was thinking. I smiled. So we finally agree on something. She laughed. Don't sound so surprised. Charlotte didn't speak. She simply watched us finish discussing the project. After several minutes, Scarlett gathered her folders. I'll leave you two to talk. She started walking toward the door. Scarlett. She turned around. Yes. I'll review everything this afternoon. No rush. She smiled warmly before leaving. The room became silent again. Charlotte slowly looked at me. You smile differently. What? When you're with her? I frowned. We work well together. It's more than work. No. She shook her head. I've known you almost my entire life. So have I. I've never seen that expression before. I didn't answer. She stood. I need to ask her something. Before I could stop her, she walked into the hallway. I followed. Scarlett had just reached the elevator. Scarlett. She turned around. Charlotte. Can we talk? Scarlett looked at me. I nodded. I'll wait. The two of them stepped into a nearby meeting room. The door stayed slightly open. Their voices carried through the quiet hallway. Charlotte spoke first. Can I ask you something honestly? Of course. Were you waiting? Scarlett sounded confused. Waiting. For Ethan and me to end. A long silence followed. Then Scarlett answered calmly. No. You expect me to believe that? Yes. You've liked him for years. Another pause. Finally, Scarlett said something that made my heart stop. You're right. Charlotte whispered. So you admit it. I admired him. For how long? I honestly don't know. Charlotte laughed bitterly. And you never told me? Scarlett's voice remained gentle. Why would I? What do you mean? You were engaged. You could have fought for him. Scarlett answered without hesitation. I respected your relationship. Silence. Then she continued. I cared about Ethan. I also cared about you. So I stayed away. Charlotte's voice cracked. You really never tried to take him? No. I waited until there was nothing left to respect. Another long silence filled the hallway. Then Scarlett quietly added, I didn't steal the man you lost. You walked away from him. No one spoke for several seconds. When the meeting room door finally opened, Charlotte stepped outside. 6 months passed faster than I expected. For the first time in a long time, my future didn't depend on someone else's choices. It depended on mine. The Riverside redevelopment project officially opened before a room full of investors, reporters, and city officials. Michael stood beside the stage with the widest smile I had ever seen. He leaned toward me. You ready? As ready as I'll ever be. You earned this. Scarlett adjusted her blazer beside me. You both earned it. I smiled. We all did. Michael stepped to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. Applause filled the room. He continued. This project has received the National Urban Design Excellence Award. The room erupted again. I looked at Scarlett. She looked just as shocked as I felt. Michael motioned for us to join him. We walked onto the stage together. Flashbulbs filled the room. After the ceremony ended, Michael called us into his office. He closed the door behind us. I have another surprise. Scarlett laughed. I think one surprise is enough. Not today. He placed 2 folders on the desk. What are these? He pushed them toward us. Open them. I opened mine. Executive Director. Permanent Partner. I stared at the paper. Michael. He smiled proudly. I've been waiting months to give you this. I looked at Scarlett. Her folder contained the same offer. She looked speechless. You trust us that much? Michael nodded. I trust the people you've become. I shook my head. I don't know what to say. Say yes. I laughed. Yes. Scarlett smiled. Definitely yes. Michael stood and shook our hands. I knew you would. As we walked out of the office, Scarlett bumped my shoulder gently. Executive Director. It sounds strange. You earned it. I had help. We both did. We celebrated with coffee instead of champagne. That felt more like us. While sitting beside the cafe window, Scarlett looked at me. You smile a lot more now. I didn't notice. I did. I guess life finally feels like mine again. She nodded. I'm happy for you. You've been a big part of that. Her cheeks turned slightly pink. I'm glad. For the first time in months, I realized I wasn't pretending to be okay anymore. I actually was. 2 weeks later, Daniel called. You heard? Heard what? Lucas left. I frowned. What do you mean? He accepted a job overseas. And Charlotte. He ended things yesterday. I stayed quiet. Daniel sighed. I figured you wouldn't celebrate. I don't. I know. Later that evening, Sophia called. Ethan. Hi. I wanted you to know something. What happened? Charlotte hasn't stopped crying. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry. She finally understands. Understands what? That Lucas never wanted marriage. I leaned against the wall. He told her. Yes. What exactly? Sophia took a deep breath. He said commitment wasn't for him. Silence followed. Then she quietly added, he left this morning. Several days passed before I heard anything else. Then Scarlett called. Are you free? Just finished work. Can you come by tomorrow? Of course. Actually. She hesitated. Maybe not. What happened? Charlotte came to see me today. I frowned. She did. Yes. What did she want? I think she needed someone to tell the truth. The next afternoon, Scarlett invited me to her office after Charlotte had already left. She sat across from me holding 2 cups of coffee. I thought you should know what happened. You don't have to tell me. I think I should. I nodded. What did she say? Scarlett looked out the window before answering. She cried almost the entire time. I stayed quiet. She said she confused excitement with love. I remembered those exact words. Scarlett continued. She said stability felt boring. I smiled sadly. That sounds like Charlotte. Not anymore. What do you mean? She knows she was wrong. I looked down at my coffee. What else? Scarlett answered softly. She asked if I hated her. You don't. No. What did you tell her? Scarlett smiled gently. I told her I wasn't happy she was hurting. Thank you. I also told her something else. What? I said you never became valuable after she lost you. I looked at Scarlett. You said that. She nodded. I told her you'd always been valuable. Silence filled the room. Then she added. I told her she simply stopped seeing it. I didn't know what to say. Scarlett continued. Charlotte blamed Lucas. But I told her Lucas wasn't the real reason. What was? Scarlett looked directly into my eyes. She believed you'd always be waiting. Her words stayed in the room long after she finished speaking. I leaned back slowly. Maybe she's right. Scarlett frowned. What? Not about waiting. Then. For years I made every decision assuming she'd always be beside me. She smiled softly. And now? Now I make decisions for myself. She nodded. I like this version of you. So do I. She laughed. I'm glad. As I drove home that evening, I thought about everything that had changed. Charlotte hadn't lost me because another man appeared. She lost me because she believed my loyalty had no limit. She thought I would always stay exactly where she left me. She never imagined I could keep walking without her. For the first time since the day she returned my engagement ring, I wasn't wondering whether she regretted leaving. I was finally grateful that she did. Because losing the future I expected had quietly led me toward a future I never knew I deserved. Almost a year had passed since Charlotte placed her engagement ring in my hand. The pain no longer controlled my mornings. It had become a quiet memory instead of an open wound. One Friday afternoon, my phone buzzed. Charlotte. I stared at her name before answering. Hello. Hi, Ethan. Her voice sounded calm. Not hopeful. Not broken. Just calm. Can we meet? What for? One last conversation. I stayed silent. She continued. If you still hate me, I'll understand. I don't hate you. Then please. Where? The lake. I closed my eyes. Our lake. Yes. I'll be there. The call ended. An hour later, I parked beside the quiet lakeside where we had spent nearly every childhood summer. The old wooden dock looked exactly the same. Charlotte stood near the water with her hands inside her coat pockets. She turned when she heard my footsteps. Thank you for coming. I almost didn't. I know. We stood side by side looking across the lake. Neither of us spoke for several moments. Finally, she smiled sadly. We used to spend entire days here. I remember. You always skipped rocks farther than me. You always claimed I cheated. You probably did. I laughed softly. Maybe. The smile disappeared from her face. I've wanted to ask you something. I'm listening. She looked directly into my eyes. Why didn't you fight for me? The question stayed between us. I looked across the water before answering. I did. She frowned. What? I fought for 20 years. She shook her head. No. Yes. You let me walk away. I couldn't stop you. You could have tried. I finally turned toward her. Charlotte. What? Every birthday, I remembered. She stayed quiet. Every promise I kept. She lowered her eyes. Every family problem we solved. She whispered, I know. Every late night, I stayed awake helping you study. I remember. Every dream I changed so ours could survive. A tear rolled down her face. I know. I spoke gently. That was my fight. She covered her mouth. I never saw it. I know. I thought fighting meant refusing to let me leave. I shook my head. No. What was it then? Loving you every day without asking for applause. She cried quietly. I understand now. I believe you. She looked surprised. You do? Yes. She wiped her tears. Then why couldn't you fight one more time? I smiled sadly. Because I refused to compete. She looked confused. Compete? I wasn't going to stand beside a stranger asking you to choose. You should have. No. Why? Because you already knew my worth. Silence filled the lakeside. I continued. If 20 years weren't enough to make you certain. I looked into her eyes. One desperate speech never would. She closed her eyes. I hate that you're right. Footsteps sounded behind us. We turned. Sophia walked toward us carrying 2 coffees. She looked surprised to see me. I hope I'm not interrupting. Charlotte shook her head. No. Sophia handed her a coffee before looking at me. I guess this conversation finally happened. It did. She sighed. I've wanted to say something for months. Charlotte looked at her sister. I already know. No. Sophia shook her head. You need to hear it again. Charlotte didn't answer. Sophia continued. I begged you. I know. I told you Ethan was the safest love you'd ever find. Charlotte nodded slowly. You did. I told you excitement fades. Another nod. I remember. I told you loyalty is rare. Charlotte whispered. I remember everything. Sophia looked at me. I'm sorry. You don't owe me an apology. Maybe not. She smiled sadly. But I still wish I'd convinced her. Charlotte reached for her sister's hand. You tried. I did. I just didn't listen. Sophia quietly walked toward the parking area, giving us privacy again. Charlotte looked back at me. I have one last question. Okay. She took a deep breath. Do you still love me? The truth arrived before I could stop it. Part of me probably always will. She closed her eyes. I knew it. I continued before hope reached her face. But that's not enough. She slowly looked up. What do you mean? 20 years don't disappear. She nodded. I'll always remember us. So there's still a chance? I shook my head. No. Why? Because love survives many things. She waited. But trust doesn't. Another tear rolled down her face. I broke yours. You did. I'm sorry. I know. I'd spend the rest of my life making it right. I believe you. She looked confused. You believe me? Yes. Then why not try again? I smiled gently. Because I finally learned something. What? Love isn't supposed to make you prove your worth. She stayed silent. I spent 20 years showing you who I was. I know. I won't spend 20 more convincing you. She cried openly now. I wish I had understood sooner. I wish you had too. The wind carried small waves against the dock. She stepped closer. I don't deserve forgiveness. I looked at her. Maybe not. She nodded. I still hope. I forgive you. Her eyes widened. You do? I forgave you months ago. Then why does this still hurt? Because forgiveness isn't the same as going back. She slowly nodded. I understand. I smiled sadly. I hope someday you find peace. I hope you find happiness. I think I'm finally starting to. She looked at me for several quiet seconds. Then she smiled through tears. I always believed you'd be waiting where I left you. I know. I never imagined you'd keep walking. I almost didn't. But you did. Yes. 2 years passed faster than I ever imagined. The Riverside redevelopment project was no longer a collection of blueprints spread across my desk. It stood proudly in the center of the city, welcoming thousands of people every day. The building had changed the skyline. More importantly, it had changed me. I stood outside the entrance adjusting my tie when Scarlett walked toward me. She smiled the same quiet smile that had slowly become my favorite part of every morning. Nervous. A little. You've already given dozens of speeches. I know. So why today? I looked at the finished building. Because this project gave me my life back. She slipped her hand into mine. You gave yourself your life back. I smiled. You helped. She laughed softly. I was just walking beside you. And somehow that made all the difference. She squeezed my hand. We should go inside. The lobby looked exactly as we had imagined years earlier. Sunlight poured through the tall glass windows. Families walked through the open space. Children laughed near the indoor garden. Everything felt alive. Michael joined us near the stage. He grinned. My two favorite executives. Scarlett laughed. You say that every week. Because it's true. He looked around proudly. You two built something extraordinary. We all did, I answered. He nodded, still humble. Before the ceremony began, someone quietly called Scarlett's name. Scarlett. We both turned. Charlotte stood several feet away. She looked different. Not broken. Not lost. Simply peaceful. She smiled politely. Can I borrow Scarlett for a minute? Scarlett looked at me. Is that okay? Of course. I'll be right back. I watched them walk toward the quiet balcony overlooking the city. For the first time in years, seeing Charlotte didn't fill me with pain. It felt like looking at an old photograph. Important. Beautiful. But finished. Several minutes later, Scarlett returned. You okay? She smiled. I'm fine. What did she want? Scarlett hesitated. She wanted to say thank you. I looked surprised. For what? For loving you. I stayed silent. Scarlett continued. She said she never understood how to love someone without expecting them to stay no matter what. I looked toward the balcony. And I told her love isn't about ownership. I smiled. That sounds like you. She laughed. She also apologized. To you? Yes. What did you say? I told her there was nothing to forgive. I frowned. Really? She nodded. I never saw love as a competition. The ceremony began before I could answer. Michael stepped onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen. The room became quiet. Today we celebrate more than a building. He smiled toward Scarlett and me. We celebrate the people who believed in impossible dreams. Applause filled the hall. After his speech, he invited us onto the stage. Standing beside Scarlett, I looked across the crowd. I saw Daniel smiling proudly. Sophia wiping away happy tears. Emma cheering louder than everyone else. Even Charlotte applauded sincerely. When the ceremony ended, reporters surrounded us. One reporter asked, Mr. Brooks, what's the biggest lesson you've learned from this project? I looked at Scarlett before answering. I learned that strong foundations matter. The reporter laughed. Architects always answer like architects. I smiled. I'm not talking about buildings. The crowd became quiet. I spent years believing my future depended on one person. Several cameras focused on me. I thought losing that future would destroy me. I glanced toward Charlotte. She smiled gently. Instead of looking away, she nodded as if telling me to continue. I was wrong. The room stayed silent. Losing the life I expected gave me the chance to build the life I actually needed. More cameras flashed. Another reporter asked, So success healed everything? I shook my head. No. What did? I looked at Scarlett again. Being chosen. The reporter frowned. What do you mean? I spent years chasing someone because I believed love meant proving myself. I reached for Scarlett's hand. Then I met someone who never asked me to chase. Scarlett smiled warmly. She simply walked beside me. The applause that followed felt different from every award I had ever received. It wasn't for the building. It was for the truth. Later that evening, after everyone left, Scarlett and I walked slowly through the quiet lobby. The sunlight had faded into soft evening light. She looked around proudly. We really did it. We did. She smiled at me. Any regrets? I thought carefully before answering. I used to think I had one. And now? I shook my head. No. She stopped walking. What changed? I looked around the building that had transformed both our careers. Then I looked into her green eyes. I thought losing Charlotte was the greatest tragedy of my life. She listened quietly. In reality, it became the beginning of my happiest future. She squeezed my hand. I'm glad. So am I. I looked toward the city outside the glass walls. Charlotte had once chosen a stranger because she believed I would always remain exactly where she left me. Scarlett never asked me to prove my love. She never asked me to sacrifice myself. She simply respected me, believed in me, and quietly chose me every single day. I intertwined my fingers with hers. Ready? She smiled. For what? Our future. She nodded without hesitation. Always. Together we walked through the front doors toward the life we had built side by side. As the evening breeze touched my face, I finally understood something that 20 years of chasing had never taught me. The greatest love is never the one you spend your life trying to earn. It is the one that gently reaches for your hand and never lets go.